Thank you, Lloyd.
Joyous. Hold on.
It's been a long time since I've seen that.
Okay, so tell us, last time you saw it was roughly?
Well, there's a great epilogue to the story. I don't know exactly the last time, but it's been a while. But after this, it premiered at AFI and Sundance Invested and South by Southwest, and it got kind of big, and these guys did end up doing like 6 professional studio albums. They played with Peter Gabriel, they played with Aerosmith, they played with Bonnie Raitt, they played Mount Fuji in front of 100,000 people. I mean, they legit became rock stars. The Marley family got involved, and I was telling Lloyd earlier, one of the highlights of my life was actually smoking a joint with Cedella Booker, who was Bob Marley's mom. So the movie didn't make any money. It ended up on PBS, but because we made a split, everything music they got, but it did change their lives. Black Nature moved to San Francisco, married a woman, has 2 kids, lives in San Francisco, and he's a very successful musician out there now. So, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the main characters are no longer with us. Life is hard over there, and 45 is old. So there's only a few left, but it really did change the trajectory of their lives. And you could sort of feel the undertones in there of like, we only going back because of you. Like, we did ask them to go back. So it was a long discussion amongst the filmmakers, how much do we insert ourselves in the movie, how much we did not want to do that at all. So they went back because of us, but they went back as a mouthpiece for the rest of the camp because they were trusted. So if they went back and said it was okay and then told everyone it was okay, then a lot of people went back because of that. So there was a lot going on in the whole production of it, but
well,
yeah.
the UNHCR seems to play a big role in all of this. And can you describe it? Did you have an interaction with people from UNHCR throughout this?
Yeah, yes, very much.
United Nations High Commission on Refugees, I think is the acronym.
So yeah, take a step back. There were 4 college buddies. We were all at Middlebury around 95, 96. And 3 of them were musicians, and I'm a very new filmmaker. So this was like one of the first things I'd ever shot. So it's so rough, and it's so bumpy, and it's so verite, because we didn't know what we were doing. We literally were figuring it out as we went along. But the 3 other Middlebury grads I went with were musicians. So we went over there, not knowing really anyone, had one contact at UNHCR, and met this guy, Alfonso Muñoz, who we called Fonzie. And he was a Rwandan refugee whose dad was a politician. And so his entire family was killed in the Rwandan genocide. And he managed to escape with his mom. They went to Congo. He was a refugee in Congo. And then a very smart man, he ended up working with UNHCR. And he works with the UNHCR to bring music. This is what he does. He lifts the spirits in the refugee camps by organizing music and bringing music, which now for 30 years he's been doing this. So they played a few free concerts with my musician friends from Middlebury, and that just, no one's allowed in refugee camps. You're not allowed to just go and but all the permissions fell away with music, which becomes like the theme of this entire thing. Like music just changes everything.
Yeah, that's the lifeblood of the film and of their lives. So the war went on for quite some time. Was it 3 years, almost 4 years, 99 to 2002 at least? There's so much displacement, right? So many lives are changed or lost. We saw that a lot of folks were amputees. When you were in the camp, what was that like to sort of even be there? And how long were you there? And how did you sort of integrate it to that?
Yeah, it was rough. And it was probably still the single most important moment of my life. It changed everything. I was a entitled 24-year-old white kid from New Jersey who'd, been to Cancun. And then all of a sudden I'm living in a refugee camp in Guinea in the poorest country with the poor. It was life-changing in a lot of ways. And there's a story that I do like to tell. On our first or second night there was a little market in a town nearby that they normally couldn't afford anything at. They only got their rice and bulgur and stuff. So we gave them like, I think $3 to go buy a couple chickens. So they went, so we were gonna throw a big party on our first or second night there. And they cooked this huge spread. Actually, the footage of them cooking the chickens in there is from that night. So they cooked these little chickens, and we had this amazing feast. Their food was really hot, but it was a wonderful party. We all just had the best time. And then the next morning, we were kind of looking around, and the young girls, like the daughters of the people, were very tired and very kind of low energy. And we're like, we had a big party. What's going on? Why are you so tired? It's like, oh, we did not eat last night. And we're like, wait, what? It's like, no, that food was for you. So they cooked this whole giant spread, and the kids didn't eat because we ate, which just destroyed us, but also put everything in perspective. Like the poorest of the poor, they're giving us their food as a sign of respect. It's just like so polar opposite than how much our country kind of works.
Yeah.
We didn't make that mistake again.
I'm glad. So total amount, first of all, the internet is still fairly nascent in this time. How did you come on to this story? How did that galvanize so you guys were able to get together and go over there? What was the attraction?
Zach Niles and Banker White were the two directors. There were two of our friends that kind of take the lead as the directors. Zach worked in the music industry. He worked for Billy Graham, might have been Bill Graham. So he had a couple connections. So I think he ended up getting the connection with the guy Fonzie in the UNHCR because of music. And the musicians are all very into sort of West African inspired musical genres, so they knew a lot about music. So again, the answer is music. Like music opened every door in the situation. And it was 3 weeks before we even found the right band and were allowed to film. So it was, at least 2 weeks of just meeting people and playing music and building goodwill and social capital before we could even start,
So there was a degree of uncertainty when you first
got there. There was no certainty. We just thought, there's probably a band in a refugee camp over there. That would be a cool story, wouldn't it? Right? 24, we were so stupid.
I'm just trying to understand the sheer gall of it, but it turned out quite well.
Yeah, and it also cost, $138. Like, it was super low budget, that first shoot.
Yeah.
Like, I stole a bunch of gear from National Geographic because that's where I was working at the time. I mean, didn't steal, I gave it back, but we borrowed.
It was a long-term borrow.
All our cameras were borrowed from National Geographic. My boss kind of liked what I was doing, so ignored my vacation time, and it all just kind of came together.
Now, you mentioned, we were standing over there in the wings, that there was a tour, an extensive tour. We saw that in the credits.
Yeah.
And it was underwritten by some Hollywood folks, is that right?
It was, Angelina Jolie, Peter Gabriel, Paul McCartney, Aerosmith, Keith Richards, it got trendy, and they supported them a lot, and they played summer stage at Central Park, and they played Madison Square. They were always opening. They opened for Aerosmith for a bunch of shows. So it was great, and they actually made quite a lot of money. They made 2 or 3 lifetimes worth of money for an average Sierra Leonean. And then they went back to Sierra Leone and kind of got ripped out of most of it, which was kind of sad. But then they kept touring, and now that's a whole other conversation about how much responsibility we felt after the movie to kind of help them with their finances. And we wanted them to, it's like having a kid kind of, because you wanted them to go out and do on their own, but they got ripped off pretty royally. So then Banker especially basically helped and sort of managed and like put stuff in place. They actually started nonprofit in Freetown called Leone TV that teaches ex-child soldiers and ex-prostitutes media skills. And they started the first ever Freetown Sierra Leone Film Festival, which you might know something about.
I don't.
And like there's a few people who are breaking out and doing stuff at the BBC, and one of them has a film in Jackson Hole this festival this fall. So it's built this network that's gotten way bigger than this movie, which is why I was really happy that you agreed to show it, because even though it's really, really old, it was pivotal in like my life. I know all my own
So we're about 20 years on from sort of the end of the film. Are there members of this band that are still actually touring? Are they reconstituted around those?
Yep.
After some died, have they reconstituted?
Yes, there are. Franco is gone, Ashade's gone, Lloyd's gone. But Ruben is around, Grace is around, Black Nature's in San Francisco. Ashade Pierce is in Montreal. So there are 4 or 5, and yes, they play as much as possible. They played here in 2017.
Right.
Yeah, we showed a 10-minute version of the movie and had them play here. That's the last time I've actually seen them. But they still, and I think they built a recording studio over there. It's funny, you see the recording studios over there.
It was the outside recording studio. It was shocking.
It's so great,
It was
though.
a dump. All the stuff
That was
like
the best recording studio in Freetown. That was it.
Yeah.
They're tweaking the wires, trying to make it work.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
And again, for 4 entitled Middlebury kids, it was quite a eye-opening experience.
So let's just maybe use this as a quick jumping off point. After this experience, which you have deemed to be sort of life-changing, where did your career go? And was this in any way an ongoing influence for you in what you sought out next? Or it was just a chapter that will always be memorable, but you changed course?
It's always been a huge part of me. I still love filming music, but there was a pivotal moment when I was telling you that that the All-Stars opened for Aerosmith for a while. So I got to film with Aerosmith and with the Refugee All-Stars for a few weeks. And then I was offered a gig to be Aerosmith's videographer on their tour, a 6-month tour through Europe and Asia.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I was offered a job to go to the Serengeti and film lions for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
So as Lisa can attest, it was one of the harder decisions I've ever had. And I chose the lions because it paid more and she was pregnant with my first son. So, 3 months in Serengeti wasn't the worst. So I did kind of make a conscious decision to go more the National Geographic wildlife route.
Mm-hmm.
But I still am very close with my friends, with the All-Stars. We have 3 movies from film festivals, because they've been to the US 25 times now. We were with them every time filming, so.
Mm-hmm.
And we are currently developing another movie with the guy from UNHCR who made this happen. So it will always be a part of my life, for sure.
That is, the circle comes complete. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Alphonse Fonzie, he's reaching his 30 years. He lives in Belgium now, works for the UNHCR for 30 years, and he's been in every single war-torn, he's on the front lines. He is the people, he's been to Palestine. He's been to every single, you name a conflict, he was there doing exactly this. He does all his job, he does all his admin, his infrastructure, but then he finds the musicians and he records with them and teaches them and throws concerts. And it's just this, it's like not part of the UNHCR mandate, he just does it. So we've been talking about doing, he's about to retire in a couple of years. He's been there for 30 years, and we want to do an album sort of in the style of this, where he goes back and finds the musicians that he played with in East Timor and in, Sudan and everywhere, and do an album. One of the main takeaways about this is, life is such a bummer all the time. And you gotta tell the hard stories, but what was so beautiful about these people was the aspiration and the positivity. They pull out of the worst place ever. So we left thinking not getting this, not getting a Guinness Book World Record, it's not that bad in the big scheme of things, compared to what these people have endured. So that lesson has changed my entire life. And if we can make this movie about Alphonse and his 30-year journey, and now we actually know how to make movies, so it would actually be really kind of fun. So we're developing that right now.
I think everybody's happy to hear that, because having seen this movie and understanding how you're almost paying it forward from this experience is very, very important. Who has questions for Andy Mitchell? Okay, right here in the middle. We have a mic coming to you.
What a great film. So, I saw the 2017 concert here. Remind me where it was?
Right here.
No, I saw it maybe in Burlington.
Oh yeah, they've toured all over, but we did do one here in 2017.
Okay. I'm not clear on what your role was in the making of the film.
Cameraman.
Okay.
There was four of us. There were four of us,
Yeah.
3 musicians, and I was the only one that ever picked up a camera before. So, Banker White has ended up being like a multiple award-winning filmmaker, but that was his first go. So I was the closest thing we had to a filmmaker on the shoot, and I shot most of it.
And there was something in the credits about Super 8 transfer. I mean, what cameras did you use? I would assume mainly camcorders. But
Yeah, we used, this is a long time ago. It was back when it shot 4x3, not even the 16x9. We were using PD-150s, so we were all shooting on crappy little mini DV tape, which I think is 480. It's not even HD. It's like half of HD, which is why it looks so crappy.
It's a bit grainy.
It's a bit grainy, but it was the very beginning of video. It was right when film and video. So we did have a Super 8 camera, and like the last film on the beach, and when they're cutting out that refugee. So we were sparse with our Super 8 filming, but it adds to a fun kind of, cinematic effect. But most of it was shot on PD-150s.
Who else has a question for Andy? Yes, up in the back, anybody? Okay, right.
Thank you for that. It's both sobering and so inspiring. Andy, you've mentioned several times about being a Middlebury student. And I don't know if there's any interns here, but I'd love to hear from your perspective. You sort of are a little harsh on yourself about being so unprepared, so, naive and so forth. But what advice would you give young people today here, from New Jersey maybe, about going out and sometimes doing something that is not planned and not, sort of linear?
Oh, 100%. I mean, that'd be the exact advice. Just do it. Go out and do it. And if you do it poorly, do it again. Do it better. Learn what you did wrong. Show it to people. Take it on the chin when it sucks and do it again. I mean, literally, like, there are talkers in this world and then there's doers. And to me, it's the doers that just go out and jump in head first, and I've often found that in projects, it's when you're not planned. Even now, when I have months to prepare, I write a shooting script, and then the second you go out, I throw it out the window. Because what's gonna happen is usually gonna be better anyway. So I'm a big fan of preparing and then being organic and rolling with it as stuff happens. But bottom line, just like, that's what I talk to a lot of students, just do it. Just pick up a camera, pick up your phone, whatever it is. The resources are so easy right now. Find a good story, and it's all about telling a good story, But yeah, just do it. That'd be a good slogan, wouldn't it?
Who else? Right down here for Wayne.
I didn't see all the film. So I'm sorry if I asked a question that was answered in the film. I just got in here late. Did the band have people that they listened to when they were coming up? Outside recordings, things from outside Sierra Leone?
Yes, definitely. They're all sort of Rastafarians too.
So they're
very heavily reggae influenced
okay.
with Gumbe vibes. So like this mixture between sort of West African and reggae, but very heavily reggae.
Did the word high life ever come up when you were with them?
The word, sorry?
High life.
High life, like the beer?
No, there's a West African, Ghanaian, principally Ghanaian music, popular music, which is called high life music.
Huh. I'm not familiar with it, but my 3 musical buddies probably are.
Yeah, okay.
I'm the one playing with the cameras while they're doing all the music stuff.
No worries.
No worries.
Who else? Who else right over here? Raise your hand one more time so David knows where to find you. There you go. Thank you.
Hi, Andy. I saw your 2 other films yesterday, and I was thinking of asking you, of all these film projects you've done, and you've answered some of it just now, what are like your top 3 life-changing, coolest shoots, other than this one?
That's a good question. This is definitely one of them for sure. I should know this question better. I get asked this question a lot. 3 months in the Serengeti was pretty cool. Let's see. I mean, I've spent a month with the gorillas in Congo and gotten a plane crash. I've done dozens and dozens of shark shows. I mean, pretty much name a charismatic megafauna, and I've spent months filming at tigers, lions. I mean, like, I've been very, very lucky, so it's really hard to pinpoint a few shoots. I mean, bears in Alaska. There's so many. I was involved when the wolves were reintroduced to Yellowstone. We did a movie about that, which was great. But it's kind of, I don't know, my takeaway from all of it has been, I love making movies and I love the product, but as I've gotten older, my priority has been more about enjoying the experience. And I've had the luxury to now take the jobs that are gonna allow me to enjoy the experience more. But it's really changed my entire mindset on, like, I'm doing this for the life experience, for the relationships, for the, you know, the stuff that I'm having. And I truly believe that when the crew, and now that I'm, you know, the showrunner and the boss on these crews, it's become the driving principle of all of our shoots. Like, everyone, there's so many dicks, pardon my language, in filmmaking. And, like, there don't need to be. You don't have to be an asshole to be talented. So my big takeaway has really been, like, be nice, have fun, and if the shoot's having a good time, it's gonna show on screen. It's truly, truly will. Every time we point a camera at these people, you see, like, Auntie Grace, and she beams and lights up at the camera because we had just, you know, had a fun experience together. So, yeah, sorry I didn't answer your question. I can't really pinpoint the best, but it's all about just the life experience, you know?
So, Andy, people are probably, I'm going to make an assumption on all your behalfs, which is probably nuts, but okay. Next projects, what are you attaching yourself to? How many of them are sort of just work that you will do because it's sustenance? How many of them are passion projects, if we can divide those two?
Passion projects don't pay the mortgage quite as well. But the funny thing is, I mean, right now I'm writing a series for National Geographic. Like, that's my day job. That's executive produced by James Cameron. So it's not like the worst day job.
Can you describe it more?
No.
Oh. It's my responsibility to probe.
I'm on an NDA, I really can't.
Okay.
So I'm lucky in that, like, you know, the day job it's work, but it's not the worst work on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, I have 12 projects in development. You know, this Alphonse one is
Mm-hmm.
my favorite right now. And I've always wanted to make scary movies, so I have like a weird other lifestyle that, you know.
Scary movies?
I love horror movies. So I've made a few little shorts. I want to make another horror movie, but that's a different festival.
You and Jeremy Holm could collaborate.
I know. I watched his last. I like that.
Yes, he's anxious to do more scary movies. Are we? Do we have any more questions? Yeah.
Just one more. Andy, just to piggyback off of David's question, are your children following in your footsteps? Do you take them along on your adventures? Do they have any inkling towards this kind of lifestyle?
TBD. It doesn't work bringing them on adventures, but it's really fun for Lisa and them to come at the end of the adventure. So if I'm in Australia and they show up a couple days after, and then I know all the good spots, so we can do the backstage pass, you know, tour. So I think they like it. I think, you know, they like. I mean, they've got to travel a lot around the world, but no, I don't think so. Though my younger son does seem to kind of be interested in the horror movie thing. So. He's more interested in the horror movie thing than the documentary thing. But
Anybody else? No? Okay. Well, thank you all for coming out to see Andy.
thank you.